Most people think power is about shouting the loudest, having the final word, or winning a public argument. They're wrong. Real power is the ability to walk away and act like the other person doesn't even exist. Machiavelli taught us that it's better to be feared than loved, but being totally dismissed, that's what actually breaks a man's spirit. When you ignore someone, you aren't just being quiet, you are deleting their importance from the universe. You are telling them they don't even rank high enough to be an enemy. An enemy is someone you respect enough to fight. A ghost is just a flicker in the air that you walk right through. In the streets, status is everything. If someone disrespects you and you explode, you've given them control over your blood pressure. You've let them dictate the tempo of the day. But when you apply the cold shoulder, you reclaim the clock. Imagine you're at work or in a neighborhood spot, and a loudmouth co-worker or a local tough guy tries to bait you with a slick comment in front of the crowd. They're looking for a reaction. They want you to get defensive, get angry, or start stuttering, so you look unstable and weak. They've rehearsed their next 3 insults, waiting for you to bite the hook. The master stroke for this trap is to look right through them. Don't blink, don't retort, and don't even stiffen your posture. Just continue your conversation with the person next to you as if the loudmouth was a gust of wind. If they repeat themselves, louder this time, let the silence hang for a beat, then turn to a third party and ask a completely unrelated question about the weather or the game. By refusing to acknowledge the attacker looks like a desperate child shouting at a brick wall. Their face gets red, their pulse spikes, and they eventually start looking around to see if anyone else noticed they just got deleted. You win because you kept your dignity while they lost theirs trying to find yours. This isn't just about being mean, it's about psychological warfare. Machiavelli knew that people are driven by their egos. If you wound a man's body, he heals. If you wound his pride by making him feel invisible, he obsesses over you. He will spend hours wondering why he couldn't get a rise out of you. He'll replay the moment over and over while you've already moved on to your next move. You are the predator who doesn't even see the fly on the wall. Consider a situation where someone is trying to ice you out of a social circle by whispering behind your back. They expect you to come crawling, asking what's wrong, or are we good? That is a plea for mercy, and in Machiavelli's world, you never plead. The counter-move for this social exclusion is to go even colder. When you see them, don't look for their eyes. Treat them like a piece of furniture, necessary for the room, but not worth talking to. If they finally break and ask why you're being distant, give them a blank, bored stare and say, "I hadn't noticed." This shifts the entire burden of the problem onto them. They are now the ones chasing you for validation. You have turned their own weapon against them, and in the process, you've shown the entire room that your internal peace doesn't depend on their approval. You are the sun, and they are just rocks floating in the dark. Every person carries a crutch of vanity, a deep-seated hunger to be seen, heard, and validated by the world around them. They need your attention to feel alive, like a fire needs oxygen to keep burning. If you give them your anger, you're feeding them. If you give them your spite, you're still feeding them. Even a shut up is a gift, because it acknowledges that they have the power to move your tongue. Machiavelli noted that men should either be caressed or crushed. Ignoring them is the ultimate way to crush the spirit without ever having to lift a finger or catch a case. When you stop responding to the person who constantly drains your energy or tests your patience, they don't just get annoyed, they eventually starve and move on to a weaker target who is willing to play their game. Think about that friend or associate who only calls when they need a favor, or worse, when they want to brag about their life just to make you feel small. They don't want a conversation. They want an audience. They expect you to be the mirror that reflects their greatness back at them. They'll drop subtle jabs about your hustle or highlight their wins while you're down. The escape hatch from this mental tax is the slow, silent fade. Don't announce you're leaving. Don't send a long-winded text explaining how they hurt your feelings or why you're focusing on yourself right now. That just gives them a script to play the victim. Instead, just stop replying. Let the messages sit. When they see those read receipts with no response, or better yet, when you don't even open the message, their ego will begin to spiral into a frantic mess. They'll start by sending a question mark text, then maybe a "you good" text. Then, when the hunger for your attention becomes unbearable, they'll try to provoke you. They'll post something subliminal on social media or tell a mutual friend something wild just to get a reaction, any reaction, just to feel relevant in your world again. They are fishing for a bite. Stay silent. Your silence is the cage they cannot break out of because there are no bars to grab onto. By withholding the likes, the replies, and the congratulations, you are effectively telling them that their life has zero impact on yours. You aren't just ignoring a person, you are devaluing their entire existence in your orbit. Imagine a situation where a neighbor or someone in your local circle is constantly trying to one-up you. You buy a car, they talk about the one they're getting next month. You start a business, they tell you why the market is crashing. They are parasites who live off the energy of competition. The antidote to this constant noise is to act like you didn't even hear the comparison. When they brag, look past them at something more interesting. A bird, a clock, your own fingernails. Don't offer a cool or a nice. Offer nothing. When they realize their wins don't even register as a blip on your radar, the air goes out of their tires. They lose the motivation to compete because you've removed the prize, your acknowledgement. Machiavelli knew that a man who depends on the breath of others for his self-worth is easily broken. By starving their ego, you aren't being petty. You are being a strategist. You are conserving your most valuable resource, your focus. Every second you spend thinking about how to get back at someone is a second you've lost. But when you ignore them, you gain that time back while they lose their mind trying to figure out where they stand. You become the mystery they can't solve, the wall they can't climb, and the ghost they can't catch. They will eventually exhaust themselves, crying out for attention in a room where you've already turned off the lights and left. There is a massive tactical difference between being gone and being absent. When you are gone, people might forget you. When you are absent by choice, people start to lose their minds, wondering why. Your value in any room, any street corner, or any office goes up the moment you aren't available for every little piece of drama or every cheap invitation. Machiavelli knew that familiarity breeds contempt. The more people see of you, the more they think they own you. If you are always there, always listening, and always reacting to the nonsense, you aren't a leader. You're a tool for others to use to pass the time. When you deliberately withdraw your attention, you regain your status as the prize everyone is chasing. Think of it like a supply and demand game. If you're always the one showing up to every hang, responding to every text in 30 seconds, and being the shoulder to cry on for people who wouldn't give you a ride to the airport, you've made yourself a commodity. You're cheap. You're like air. Important, sure. But nobody notices it until it's gone. Machiavelli taught that a prince should be rare. He should be seen only when it matters. This creates an aura of gravity. When you aren't around, the conversation naturally shifts to where you are and what you're doing. Your silence speaks louder than their shouting. Let's say you're in a group setting, maybe a meeting or a hangout, where someone is clearly trying to sideline you, talking over you, or acting like they're the main character. Most people feel the itch to talk louder, to crack a joke to get noticed, or to fight for their spot in the circle. That is a loser's move. It shows you're hungry for their approval. The remedy for this blatant disrespect is to physically stay, but mentally and emotionally check out. Look at your watch like you've got somewhere better to be. Check your phone and crack a slight smile at a message they can't see. Or better yet, start a separate, quieter, more exclusive conversation with the person next to you, ignoring the loud mouth entirely. By doing this, you have effectively removed the audience from the person trying to perform. They are dancing for a crowd that isn't looking. You didn't fight for the spotlight. You just turned the lights off on them and moved the party to a different corner. They'll be left standing in the dark, stuttering, wondering where they lost the room. They realize that without your attention, they have no stage. You've signaled to everyone watching that you are the one who decides what's interesting and what's trash. This works in relationships too. If someone starts taking you for granted, don't argue about it. Arguments are a form of connection. Instead, give them the gift of your absence. Stop being the first to text. Stop being the one who makes the plans. When they finally notice the void you left behind, they'll scramble to fill it. They'll start wondering if they did something wrong, or worse, if you've found someone more important to spend your time with. This is the tactical shift to regain your leverage. You don't explain the move, you just make it. Machiavelli wouldn't waste breath explaining why he left the room. He'd just let the silence do the work. When you eventually reappear, you do so on your terms, with a higher price tag on your time. You aren't just a person anymore, you're an event. Machiavelli knew that a prince who tries to please everyone ends up a slave to everyone. In the streets, if you react to every dog that barks, you'll never reach the end of the block. People use their outrage, their emergencies, or their petty problems as hooks to snag your time and focus. They want to pull you into their orbit so they can feel like they matter. When you choose who to ignore, you are choosing who gets to live in your head. If they aren't paying rent, kick them out. By being indifferent, you signal that your world is too big, too fast, and too important for their small-time drama. You aren't being mean. You are being expensive. You are showing them that your attention is a currency they haven't earned. Indifference is a colder, sharper blade than hate. Hate is a form of passion. It means you still care enough to feel something. Indifference is the total absence of feeling. It is the ultimate power move because it cannot be argued with. If someone screams at you and you scream back, you're equals. If someone screams at you and you yawn, you're their master. Machiavelli argued that a leader must be detached enough to see the board clearly. When you are indifferent, you are the only one in the room with a clear head. Picture a neighbor or a local peer who keeps trying to start a rivalry with you, acting like you're in a competition you never signed up for. They buy what you buy, they mimic your moves, and then they talk trash to mutual friends to see if you'll bite. They are desperate for a war, because a war with you would elevate their status. The maneuver to end this obsession is total blankness. When you run into them, give them the same polite, empty nod you'd give a stranger at a bus stop. The kind of look that says, I know you're a human being, but I have no idea what your name is. No heat, no frost, just nothing. Don't mention their name to others, don't look at their social media, and don't acknowledge their wins. When they realize their rivalry is one-sided, they look like a fanatic chasing a shadow. You haven't fought them, yet you've already won because you refuse to let them onto the battlefield. Think about the office snake who tries to bait you with passive-aggressive comments during a meeting. They want you to snap so they can play the victim and run to HR. The counter-strike for this provocation is to treat their insults like boring background noise. If they say something slick, don't defend yourself. Just pause. Look at them with a slightly confused expression, as if they just spoke a foreign language, and then go right back to your spreadsheet. You have effectively signaled that their opinion has zero weight. You didn't give them the satisfaction of a clapping back moment. Instead, you left them looking small and desperate for attention. This is how you handle the energy vampires who try to suck you into their latest crisis. They want you to be as stressed as they are. The strategy for protecting your peace is to offer aggressive boredom. When they start their third rant of the week about the same person, don't offer advice, don't ask questions. Just give a short, non-committal, that's crazy, and then change the subject to something incredibly mundane, like the price of gas or the color of the carpet. You are showing them that their emergency doesn't even move the needle for you. Eventually, they'll stop coming to you because there's no hit to be found. You've starved the fire by refusing to give it any more oxygen. In the end, the person who cares the least is the one who holds all the cards. A man who cannot be reached, cannot be manipulated. Machiavelli understood that being too accessible makes you cheap. If people can get a piece of your mind whenever they want, they'll treat your opinion like trash. In the game of power, you have to be a ghost in the machine. Controlled isolation isn't about hiding in a hole because you're scared. It's about pulling the plug on the world so you can work in the dark. It creates a vacuum where your enemies start to doubt their own strength because they can't get a read on yours. When you are silent and unavailable, people fill that silence with their own insecurities. They start to wonder if you're plotting, if you're winning, or if you've simply outgrown them. Think about the modern trap. The group chat, it's a digital leash. There's always someone in the circle spreading rumors, dropping bait messages, or trying to stir up drama to see who flinches. They want that instant notification, that typing bubble that proves they've got a hook in your mouth. They're waiting for you to send a paragraph, defending yourself or attacking someone else so they can screenshot it and use it as leverage later. The tactic for neutralizing this noise is the black hole approach. You see the messages, you hear the whispers, but you provide zero feedback. You don't leave the group. That's a loud, emotional move. You just stop engaging. You become a ghost who watches but never speaks. Because you didn't jump into the mud to wrestle, they're the only ones getting dirty. Eventually, the person talking looks like a fool shouting into a canyon, and the rest of the group starts looking at your calm, detached silence as a sign of superior status. Controlled isolation is also your best defense against the urgent demands of people who don't respect your time. Machiavelli noted that a prince should have a select few advisors and shut out the rest of the noise. If you answer every phone call on the first ring, you're telling the world that your time is worth nothing. You're a servant to their schedule. The way to flip this power dynamic is to become intentionally difficult to find. Let the calls go to voicemail. Let the texts sit for 6 hours or 6 days. When you finally do respond, don't apologize. An apology is a confession of weakness. Just say, "I was busy," and get to the point. This forces them to operate on your clock, not theirs. It builds a reputation that your time is a limited resource, and people will start to treat it with more respect, because they're never sure when they'll get another piece of it. Imagine a situation where a superior or a dominant peer is trying to micromanage your life or your work. They want to keep you under their thumb by constantly checking in and giving feedback that's actually just criticism. They thrive on the back-and-forth struggle. The method for breaking their grip is to provide a wall of silence. Do the work, but stop the chatter. Stop giving them the play-by-play of your life. When they realize they don't know what your next move is, they lose their leverage. They can't manage what they can't see. By isolating your plans and your thoughts, you regain the element of surprise. You become an enigma, and in any street-level or high-stakes environment, the person who keeps their mouth shut and their door locked is the one who ends up holding the keys to the kingdom. You aren't lonely. You're just busy building an empire that they aren't invited to see yet. Machiavelli argued that you should never let a minor sting turn into a major war unless there is a clear, profitable victory at the end. Most insults are just noise from people who have nothing better to do than try to drag you down to their level. If you respond, you give the insult life. You breathe oxygen into a fire that would otherwise die out on its own. If you ignore it, the insult shrivels and dies right on the tongue of the person who said it. High-value individuals don't have time to correct every lie, debunk every rumor, or answer every critic who barks from the sidelines. They simply ghost the unworthy and keep their eyes on the prize. Imagine someone in your circle, maybe a cousin, a long-time associate, or a friend, betrays your trust on a small but snake-like level. Maybe they forgot to invite you to a move, or they accidentally leaked a private detail about your hustle to someone who shouldn't know. They are waiting for the confrontation. They've already prepared their "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it" speech, or their "you're overreacting" defense. They want to draw you into a cycle of drama where they can apologize, get back in your good graces, and then do it again when it suits them. The path to total dominance here is to skip the argument entirely. Arguments are for equals. Ghosts don't argue. Just stop including them. Don't block them on social media. That shows you're still emotional enough to take action. Just stop inviting them, stop calling, and stop acknowledging their presence when you're in the same room. When they eventually get desperate and ask, "Are we okay?" or "Did I do something?" give them a short, bored, "Of course," and then walk away to talk to someone else. You haven't given them the satisfaction of a fight, but you've effectively demoted them from a person to a ghost. There is no coming back from being deleted. You've signaled that they no longer have the status required to even be your enemy. If you're tired of being the one who cares too much, drop a comment below with the word "ghost" if you've officially deleted someone unworthy from your life this week. Stay sharp. See you in the next one.